Tatume squash, however you choose to pronounce it. Here's one. It's too big. You shouldn't let them get this big. You should harvest them when they're smaller than this. And speaking about too big, look how big it's gotten. Last time we took a video, it was around to that spot. And now it's extending a good 10 feet onto my lawn. It's just enormous. It stretches all the way back. So from the tip, from the growing tip here, all the way back to where it started from, has got to be 20 feet, 25 feet. Crazy. It's just taken over. Even all the way up to where my kale is. And I had to break it around my American melons or else they would have overrun that too. I'm literally drowning in squash at this point. But there's a downside here, and that is this plant was advertised as practically immune to the squash vine borer, and I found that it's not true. There was significant squash vine borer damage on these plants, especially the older vines. As you can see here, here's the classic frass. Here's the actual stem into the ground, and you can see where they drilled in, and you can see that the plant is yellowing and dying from the squash vine borer. So it did a lot better than my zucchini last year because they just completely destroyed that. But it is not immune at all to the squash vine borer. Or it might be resistant, but they can and will get in there. I think its saving grace is how vigorous it grows. So it just roots itself where it can, and it just keeps on growing, and to just keep going despite the damage. But there is damage, and there's no getting around it. I'm having other issues, just like leaves dying. I don't know if that's from a fungus or squash vine borer damage. I don't see any holes here, but I don't know. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with the plant. Here's one. It's definitely given me more squash than I could possibly have imagined. Again, this is too big. You shouldn't let them. You either let them get really big and cook them like a winter squash, or you have to harvest them when they're about the size of a baseball, or a softball rather. Because otherwise, when they get this big, the seeds start to get hard, and it's just not as nice to eat them. When they're smaller, you can just chew through the seeds. It's like they're not even there. Now, I could have sworn there were other ones in here. You have to keep a good lookout because the light green ones are easy to spot, but when they're dark green like that, they're very well camouflaged. No, they're in there. I'll find them. And we're still getting flowers. Apparently that one didn't fertilize. Still getting flowers. Still getting fruit set. I'm sure there's plenty more in there that I haven't caught yet. I'll go in there later and sort through it. I'm trying to find the one that's of the correct size so I can show that. Yeah, the fruit tends to stay towards the growing tips, probably because they're growing and rooting as they go along, so that there's can avoid that squash vine borer damage. And you can see the vine that I trained up that trellis got the squash vine borer, and that's in the process of dying off on me. Another thing I noticed is that if the vine's got squash vine borers in it, it tends to stop producing. It tends to stop flowering. You see, like on this tip, there are no more flowers on here. It's just, I might as well just pull it up and give the rest of it more space. This one seems to be fairly vigorous. There's a male flower, and the male bud. I have to push it over. It's hit into my kale. So, yeah, I'm very pleased with it, but just be advised that squash vine borers can and will get in there, and that you'll need an enormous amount of space. Just wanted to show the correct size to harvest these, and this is it. About the size of a baseball, fits in my medium-sized hand really well. If you put it on a ruler, it's maybe 3 inches wide, 4 inches long. This is the best size. Even if they get a little bit bigger like this, that's okay too. But you don't want them to get any bigger than this, because then the seeds inside, they get hard. And when you're eating it, you're like, you're starting to chew on these seeds. It sort of spoils the texture. This size is perfect. You won't even taste, the seeds are not even developed yet. You just eat them and they just taste exactly the same as the rest of the fruit. So I just wanted to show you the correct size to get these.